Good evening, everyone. This is Gary Bennett at Excel.me. Welcome to Objective-C for Absolute Beginners, Chapter 6. Tonight we're going to be talking about learning about Xcode and Objective-C. For those of you that are attending live through GoToWebinar, if you can hear my voice and see my screen, please raise your hand to make sure I got everything configured correctly. Great. For those of you that are attending both live and recorded, if you'd like to see the upcoming sessions and participate in the free GoToWebinar sessions every Monday night at 6:30 Pacific time, just click on the free videos. You can learn how to see the previous recordings, see what they were, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way, whenever I upload a video, you get a little email that tells a new video has been uploaded, and then of course you can attend live by click on the GoToWebinar link, and then you can see the upcoming live tutorials. And I'll have this updated for June later on this week, so I'll have the June dates as well. And then if you go to the GoToWebinar side of things, you get prompted every Wednesday night or Monday night. Sorry, every Monday night you get prompted with the link to attend live. Okay, tonight we're going to be learning about Xcode and a couple of the new features that make it really easy to write new applications. And so we're going to go ahead and start a new project. We're going to say File, New Project in Xcode, and I am using the latest and greatest version of Xcode, and you can see it's Xcode 4.3.2. A new version comes out about once a quarter is what it's averaging right now. We're probably going to get a whole new upgrade to Xcode. I would not be surprised at WWDC this June, which is in like 2 weeks. So at least we'll get a beta version of it. So this is as it stands now, but when a new one comes out, I'll do a new YouTube video about it. So let's go ahead and create a new single view application. We're just going to kind of learn here some of the features here. I'm going to go ahead and my test app, put my company identifier. This is used for submission to the App Store. We're not going to use storyboards. We're going to learn more about storyboards, and I have a YouTube video on that. And we're going to do an iPhone application, but we are going to turn on ARC, Automatic Reference Counting. That eliminates some of the memory handling that we have to deal with. And I'm going to say create. So that's going to go ahead and save my little test application and project. And I'm going to go ahead and expand it. Now when I first open up the application, it's going to open it up to the settings information for my current target. What I want to do is I'm going to click on my view controller here. This is the first view controller. And if I needed to, this is where basically the application is, the first view for the application is going to get handled. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the nib file. And what the nib file has is the view for this first, for our first view in the application. And I have turned on the right-hand side, top right-hand side, I have turned on my utilities panel. I can turn it off, get rid of it. I have it turned on, it pops in. I can show my console part if I'm writing things to the console. And I also have an assistant. My assistant here will show the header file, the corresponding header file, with my nib. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show some of my objects here. What I'm going to take is a label, and I'm going to drag my label out, and I'm going to drag my a button out with it. And what I'm going to do is when they click on that button, it will go ahead and put something on this label. So I'm just going to call this Press Me for now. And the assistant, what I love about the assistant is it saves a lot of time and hassle writing our code. So I'm going to turn on my lovely assistant. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this panel right here for now, and I can re-expand it just by clicking on this. And what I'm going to do is now with Xcode 4.3, I can drag and drop to create a lot of this code. Well, I want to create my label outlet and my IB action here for my button. To do that, just do a control drag and drag from the button and we're going to put that outlet here inside the interface section of our view. So I'm going to drag, make sure it's set as an outlet. I'm going to say my label is what I'm going to call it. It is a label. I want it strong. I'm going to connect to it. All right, so now I have a connection from this label to my iVar here, to my outlet. I should say my outlet. And I'm going to do the same for my action, for my button. That creates an event, also known as an IB action. And I'm going to call it my press button. It's a type ID. I want it to handle to the touch up inside, which is the tap event on a button. And you typically send it the sender ID, which is the ID of that button, which we learn more about in my courses here, but tonight we're limited on time. So now I have my interface section all taken care of. Well, let's go ahead and let's look at my .m file now. This is where we're gonna code what happens when that button gets pressed. And I'm going to turn off my lovely assistant. And we can just, by looking at the code here, we can see a few things. One, my outlet automatically gets set to nil on the view did unload. That's in case we need to handle any memory pressures that the operating system may handle, or may deal us if the application's running low on memory. It will release that before it crashes our application. And it also creates my action method here for my press button. So when I press the button, what I want it to do is I want it to set the text in that label. Well, that label, that outlet is, if I go back to my header file, that outlet is called my label. So, oops, fat fingered there, Control C. Go back here. And we'll do this my label dot set text, and we'll just be real creative here and say hello world and close it. And what this is going to do is when I press the button, because it's mapped here, it's tied to that button in my nib file, this method will be called press button. I'm going to send a message to the my label outlet called set text, that UI label. That set text method will send hello world to that label and put it in that view inside of our nib. Right there. So let's go ahead, compile the application, make sure we got everything working, run our application, and let's see if it works. So I have no issues. That means my application will run. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will do what I want it to do. Okay, so here it comes up. It shows my label. I didn't clear that out when I started. I just left it as label. I press that and it says hello. I could change the font and make it a little bit bigger to make it say hello world. Let's go ahead and just do that 2 seconds here. Take us to do. Kind of recenter it there. Let's see how our guidelines work. Okay. And stop running. Compile and run. Hit press me. Hello world. All right. So tonight we learned a little bit more about Interface Builder, some of the great new features that saves us a lot of time in coding, in making our iVars, our instance variables, our outlets, and our actions. It creates the code for us, allows us to quickly create our views and tie our code with our iVars, our outlets, and our actions. Well, I hope this was useful for you. For those that are attending live, I'll stop the recording here and I'll be happy to answer your question on this chapter or any other chapters in my book or on your project. Thanks for attending and look forward to having you next week. Good night.